4 German shepherds was found in an abandoned carousel horse. What baby did, next left everyone in tears. The morning Tommy found them, nobody could have imagined how 4 dying puppies would expose a conspiracy that went all the way to the Pentagon. What this 5-year-old boy did next will absolutely break your heart. Like, share, and tell us where you're watching from in the comments below. The carousel horse shouldn't have been making that sound, not after 20 years of silence. Walter pressed his finger to his lips, motioning for Tommy to stay back. The abandoned Wonderland Park had been closed since 2004, its rides frozen in time like a photograph nobody wanted to remember. He'd brought his grandson here at dawn to capture the way morning light fell through the broken skylights of the main pavilion. Photography was supposed to be therapeutic, his grief counselor had said. Nobody mentioned it might also be dangerous. "Grandpa, listen," Tommy whispered, his small hand tugging at Walter's jacket. "Someone's crying." The sound came again, weak, desperate, barely audible above the wind rattling through the collapsed roof. It was coming from the carousel in the center of the pavilion, where painted horses stood in an eternal gallop to nowhere. "Stay behind me," Walter said, though his knees protested as he climbed over the rusted chain blocking the entrance. The floorboards groaned under his weight. Morning light streamed through gaps in the ceiling, illuminating dust particles that danced like snow. Tommy didn't listen. He never did when animals were involved. The boy had been different since his father died 8 months ago, quieter, more serious, but somehow more connected to suffering than any 5-year-old should be. While other kids his age played superheroes, Tommy rescued earthworms from sidewalks after rain. The whimpering grew louder as they approached the carousel. One horse, a white one with a golden saddle, was different from the others. Its side panel hung loose, revealing a hollow cavity inside. "There's something in there," Tommy said, already moving toward it. "Tommy, wait!" But the boy was already on his knees, peering into the dark space. His gasp made Walter's blood run cold. "Puppies? Grandpa, there are puppies in here!" Walter rushed forward, his camera swinging from his neck. Inside the hollow carousel horse, 4 German shepherd puppies lay in a tangle of fur and bones. They were so thin he could count their ribs, their eyes crusted shut, their breathing shallow and labored. One wasn't moving at all. "We have to help them," Tommy said, his voice breaking. Tears were already streaming down his face. "We have to save them. Tommy, they might be sick. They could bite." "They won't bite." Tommy was already reaching into the cavity, his small hands gentle as he touched the first puppy. It whimpered, a sound so weak it barely qualified as alive. "They're just babies, Grandpa." "Someone left them here to die." Walter's chest tightened. The puppies couldn't be more than 6 weeks old. In the corner of the cavity, he spotted something that made his stomach turn. The remains of what must have been their mother, nothing but fur and bones now. "She stayed with them?" Tommy whispered, understanding immediately. "She stayed until she couldn't anymore." The boy pulled off his jacket without hesitation, despite the morning chill. "Help me wrap them up. We need to keep them warm." "Tommy, we should call animal control." "No!" The ferocity in his grandson's voice startled Walter. "They'll put them to sleep." "You know they will. Dad wouldn't let them die. Dad would save them." The mention of his son, Tommy's father, Michael, hit Walter like a physical blow. Michael had been the same way, unable to pass suffering without trying to help. It had made him a great paramedic. It had also gotten him killed, rushing into a collapsing building to save someone else's child. Walter looked at Tommy's determined face, so much like Michael's, and knew he'd already lost this argument. "Okay," he said, pulling off his own jacket. "But we do this carefully." Together, they extracted the puppies from their tomb. Each one was lighter than it should be, their bodies limp and cold. The smallest one, barely bigger than Walter's hand, wasn't breathing at all. "No, no, no," Tommy whispered, cradling the tiny form against his chest. He started rubbing its back, the way he'd seen his father do with the neighbor's cat once. "Come on, little one. Please." Walter was about to tell him it was too late when the puppy gasped, a tiny rattling breath that sounded like hope. "He's alive!" Tommy's joy was infectious. "Grandpa, he's alive!" They wrapped the puppies in their jackets, creating a makeshift bundle. That's when Walter noticed something strange, a military-style collar on the ground near the mother's remains. The metal tags were still readable. Valor, K9, Unit 73, classified. "What's that mean?" Tommy asked, reading over his shoulder. "I don't know," Walter lied, pocketing the collar. He'd been in the Army for 10 years. He knew exactly what those tags meant, and it made no sense. Military dogs didn't just end up in abandoned theme parks. The walk back to Walter's truck took forever. Tommy insisted on carrying 2 puppies himself, whispering to them constantly. "It's okay now. You're safe. I've got you. My name is Tommy, and I'm going to take care of you." One puppy, slightly larger than the others, managed to open one eye, looking directly at Tommy. Its tail attempted a weak wag. "He knows me," Tommy said, wonder in his voice. "He already knows me." Walter drove faster than he should have, one eye on the rearview mirror, where Tommy sat surrounded by puppies. The boy had given them his breakfast, a peanut butter sandwich Grace had packed, breaking it into tiny pieces and mixing it with water from his thermos. "Slow down, little ones," Tommy coached them. "Not too fast or you'll get sick." The veterinary clinic was just opening when they arrived. Dr. Elena Reeves took one look at their bundle and immediately ushered them into an examination room. "Where did you find them?" she asked, already hooking up an IV to the smallest puppy. "Wonderland Park," Walter said, "inside an old carousel horse." Dr. Elena's hands paused for just a moment. "The abandoned park?" These puppies were deliberately hidden then. This wasn't accidental abandonment. She worked with practiced efficiency, checking each puppy's vitals, administering fluids, antibiotics. Tommy never left their side, his small hand constantly touching one puppy or another. "Will they make it?" he asked. Dr. Elena's expression was grim. "They're severely malnourished, dehydrated. The smallest one?" She shook her head. "I'll do everything I can, but you should prepare yourself. Not all of them might survive." "They will," Tommy said with such certainty that even Dr. Elena looked surprised. "I know they will." That's when Walter's phone rang. Grace's name flashed on the screen. Tommy's mother, working her 3rd double shift this week at the hospital. "Walter, where are you? Mrs. Patterson said she saw you leaving with Tommy at dawn." "We're at the veterinary clinic," Walter said, bracing himself. "Is Tommy hurt?" "Oh God, what happened?" No, he's fine. We found some puppies, abandoned puppies. They needed help." The silence on the other end stretched long enough that Walter wondered if the call had dropped. "Puppies," Grace finally said, her voice flat. "Walter, we've talked about this. We can't afford—" "Mom?" Tommy had grabbed the phone. "Mom, someone left them to die. Their mom stayed with them until she died, trying to keep them alive. They're just babies." Walter heard Grace's sharp intake of breath. She knew that tone. It was the same one Michael used to get. "Tommy, sweetheart, I know you want to help, but please, Mom, please. I haven't asked for anything since Dad died. Not anything. But these puppies, they need us. I need them." Those last 3 words hung in the air like a confession. Walter saw Doctor Elena turn away, pretending to be busy with medical equipment. "Put your grandfather back on," Grace said softly. Walter took the phone. "Grace!" "How much?" "What?" "The vet bills." "How much?" Walter looked at Dr. Elena, who was already shaking her head. "Don't worry about it," the vet mouthed. "Dr. Elena says she can work with us on the cost," Walter said. Another long pause. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. And Walter, thank you for not telling him no. I know You've been surviving," Walter said gently. "We all have?" While they waited, Dr. Elena made a discovery that changed everything. "These puppies have been microchipped," she said, frowning at her scanner. "But these aren't normal chips. They're military grade, encrypted." Walter pulled out the collar he'd found. This was with their mother. Dr. Elena examined the tags, her face paling. "Valor, I know that name. She was in the news 6 months ago, a decorated military dog who went missing along with her handler during a classified operation. They were both presumed dead." "Then how did she end up in an abandoned park?" Walter asked. "And why did someone hide her puppies?" Dr. Elena added. She looked at the computer screen where the chip data displayed as incomprehensible code. "Whatever's on these chips, someone wanted it buried with these puppies." Tommy wasn't listening to the adult conversation. He was busy naming the puppies, his voice soft and certain. "You're brave," he told the largest one, "because you kept your eyes open even when you were scared. You're hope to the only female. Because you gave me hope when you wagged your tail. You're star to one with a white mark on its forehead. Because you're going to shine bright." He picked up the smallest one, the one who'd almost died. "And you're lucky, because we found you just in time." The clinic door chimed, and Grace rushed in, still in her hospital scrubs. She looked exhausted, her blonde hair escaping from its ponytail, dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide anymore. She took in the scene, Tommy surrounded by puppies, Walter looking guilty, Doctor, Elena working to save tiny lives, and something in her face crumbled. "Oh, Tommy," she whispered. "Mom, look," Tommy said, holding up Lucky. "He was dead, but I brought him back, just like Dad would have." Grace's knees seemed to give out. She sank into a chair, tears flowing freely. "Baby, Dad didn't come back." "I know," Tommy said, his own tears starting. "But maybe that's why we found them. Maybe Dad sent them to us, so we could save them like we couldn't save him." Walter had to turn away, his own eyes burning. Through the window, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. A black SUV with tinted windows was parked across the street. It hadn't been there when they arrived. "Dr. Elena," he said quietly. "Is there a back exit?" She followed his gaze and nodded. "Why?" Before he could answer, the clinic door opened. A man in a dark suit entered, his eyes scanning the room with military precision. "I'm looking for some missing military property," he said, his voice carrying an authority that didn't match his civilian clothes. 4 German Shepherd puppies. "I have reason to believe they might be here." Tommy instinctively pulled the puppies closer. "They're not property. They're living things." The man's eyes fixed on Tommy with an intensity that made Walter step between them. "I'm afraid there's been a mistake," Walter said. "These are just stray puppies we found." "Strays with military-grade microchips?" The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I don't think so. Those puppies contain classified information vital to national security. They need to come with me, now." "No!" Tommy's shout startled everyone. "You're lying! You're the one who left them to die." The man's composure cracked slightly. "That's a serious accusation, young man. Their mother was a hero," Tommy said, standing up despite his small size. "She had medals and everything. Heroes don't abandon their babies, but bad people do." The room went very still. Even the puppies seemed to sense the tension. "I have paperwork," the man said, reaching into his jacket. Walter's hand moved to his hip, where his license concealed carry rested. Slowly, the man pulled out documents, signed orders for the retrieval of military assets. Dr. Elena examined them. "These look official, but..." She held them up to the light. "No watermark. These are forgeries." The man's expression darkened. "You're making a mistake." "The only mistake," Grace said, standing up, "is you thinking you can walk into a clinic full of witnesses and threaten a child." She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the real police." The man backed toward the door. "This isn't over. Those puppies are coming with me, one way or another." After he left, Walter immediately called his old army buddy, Frank, who worked in military intelligence. "Frank, I need you to run a name for me. Valor K9, Unit 73. The silence on the other end was telling. "Walter, where did you hear that name?" "Just tell me." "That dog was assigned to Captain James Mitchell. They were investigating military contractor corruption when they disappeared. Officially, they're both dead. Unofficially, Walter, if you know something about that dog, you're in danger." Walter looked at Tommy, who was singing softly to the puppies, the same lullaby Michael used to sing. "Frank, I need your help." That night, they took the puppies home despite the danger. Grace had made the decision after seeing Tommy smile, really smile, for the first time since the funeral. Their small house felt different with the puppies there. Tommy had made beds for them in his room, using every spare blanket and towel they owned. Lucky, still the weakest, lay on Tommy's pillow. "They need to eat every few hours," Dr. Elena had instructed, giving them special formula and tiny bottles. "And Lucky needs his medication every 4 hours." Tommy set his dinosaur alarm clock. "I'll wake up. I promise." Grace watched from the doorway as Tommy fed each puppy, patient and gentle despite his exhaustion. "You know we might not be able to keep them," she said softly. "I know," Tommy replied, not looking up. "But we can love them until we can't anymore." That's what Dad would say. Grace had to leave the room, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Walter stayed up that night, his old service rifle loaded and ready. The black SUV had followed them home, parking 3 houses down. He'd already called Frank, who promised to look into it. At 2 a.m., Tommy's alarm went off. Walter heard the boy get up, heard him preparing bottles, heard him singing softly as he fed the puppies. "It's okay, Lucky," Tommy whispered. "I know you're scared. I'm scared, too, sometimes. But we have each other now." At 3:47 a.m., Walter's phone buzzed. A text from Frank. "Get out. Now. They're coming." Walter didn't hesitate. He woke Grace and Tommy, bundling up the puppies in a large box. "What's happening?" Grace asked, but she was already grabbing essentials, medication, formula, her purse. "The man from the clinic wasn't alone," Walter said. "We need to go." They were loading the truck when the vehicles arrived, 3 black SUVs converging on their street. Walter threw the truck in reverse, tires squealing as they escaped through the back alley. "Where are we going?" Tommy asked, clutching the box of puppies. "Somewhere safe," Walter promised, though he had no idea where that might be. His phone rang. Frank's voice was urgent. "Walter, listen carefully. Captain Mitchell is alive. He's been in hiding, trying to expose the people who killed his dog and tried to kill him. The puppies, Valor must have been pregnant when she escaped. The information Mitchell gathered, it's in their chips, genetic encoding, passed from mother to pups." "What kind of information?" "Evidence of weapon sales to terrorist organizations. Names, dates, transactions. Enough to bring down 6 military contractors and the officials they've bought." Walter glanced in the rearview mirror. They were being followed. "Frank, they're on us." "There's a safe house. 1847 Mountain View Road. Mitchell will meet you there." Walter took a hard right, tires screaming. Grace held Tommy and the puppies as the truck fishtailed. "Grandpa!" Tommy cried out. "Hold on!" The pursuing SUVs were gaining. Walter's mind raced through options, his old military training kicking in. He couldn't outrun them, but maybe. He slammed on the brakes and spun the wheel, sending the truck into a controlled slide that took them down a narrow side street. The lead SUV overshot the turn, buying them precious seconds. "There!" Grace pointed to an abandoned warehouse. "We can hide." "No," Walter said. "They'll corner us." But then he saw it, a police station 2 blocks ahead. "Hold on." He drove straight for it, horn blaring, headlights flashing. The pursuing SUVs suddenly fell back, unwilling to follow them onto government property. They burst into the police station, Tommy still clutching the puppies, Grace supporting him, Walter watching their 6. "We need help," Walter announced to the startled desk sergeant. "Someone's trying to kill us and steal these puppies." It sounded insane even to him. The sergeant, an older woman with kind eyes, looked at Tommy's terrified face and the box of whimpering puppies. "Slow down. Start from the beginning." But before Walter could explain, a man in military uniform entered the station. Walter's hand went to his weapon, but the man held up his hands. "Mr. Patterson, I'm Captain James Mitchell. I believe you found my partner's puppies." Tommy looked up at him with those 2 wise eyes. "Valor was your dog?" Mitchell's composure cracked. "Yes, she was everything to me. My partner, my best friend. I thought she died 6 months ago." "She did," Tommy said softly. "But she kept her babies alive first. She was a hero." Mitchell knelt down to Tommy's level, tears flowing freely down his weathered face. Can I see them?" Tommy opened the box. 4 pairs of eyes looked up at Mitchell. Brave, Hope, Star, and Lucky. Lucky, the smallest, reached out a tiny paw toward him. "They have her eyes," Mitchell whispered. "Oh, Valor, you clever, brave girl. You saved the evidence even when I couldn't save you." "Evidence?" the desk sergeant asked. Mitchell stood, his expression hardening. "Evidence that will put some very powerful people in prison. These puppies are carrying encrypted data in their DNA that proves military contractors have been selling weapons to our enemies. The same people who tried to kill me and did kill Valor. That's why they wanted the puppies," Walter said. to destroy the evidence. And they'll keep coming, Mitchell confirmed, unless we act fast. I have contacts at the FBI waiting for this data, but I needed the puppies to complete it. The encryption key is split between all 4 chips. Tommy held Lucky closer. You're not taking them away, are you? Mitchell looked at the boy holding his partner's legacy. Son, these puppies are the only thing left of the best friend I ever had. But seeing how you've cared for them, he paused. Valor would have liked you. She always knew good people from bad. The desk sergeant was already on the phone, calling for backup. FBI. Anyone who would listen. But Walter heard something that made his blood run cold. Sirens approaching, too many to be help. They've got people inside the force, Mitchell said, recognizing the danger. We need to move. Now. They ran for the back exit, Mitchell leading the way with military precision. The puppies, seeming to sense the urgency, stayed quiet in their box. My truck, Walter said, but Mitchell shook his head. They'll be watching for it. This way. He led them to an unmarked van already running. Get in. As they pulled away, Walter saw the police station surrounded by black vehicles. Not all of them were fake police. Some were real officers, bought and paid for. Where are we going? Grace asked, holding Tommy and the puppies tight. Somewhere they can't follow, Mitchell said. A place even they won't dare attack. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a local news station. Live television, Mitchell explained. The one place they can't silence us. Inside, Mitchell's contact was waiting. An investigative journalist named Sandra Chen, who'd been following the corruption story for years. Captain Mitchell, she said, I thought you were dead. So did they? Mitchell replied. But these puppies are very much alive, and they're carrying the proof we need. Within minutes, they were in the studio. The regular morning show was interrupted for breaking news. Sandra faced the camera. We're here with a story of corruption, attempted murder, and 4 puppies who hold the key to exposing it all. As Mitchell began explaining, showing documents he had managed to save, Tommy sat with the puppies visible on camera. Lucky, despite his weakness, managed to sit up and look directly at the lens, as if he understood the importance of the moment. 6 months ago, Mitchell said, my partner Valor and I discovered evidence of weapon sales to terrorist organizations, sanctioned by contractors within our own military. They tried to kill us both. They succeeded with Valor, but not before she hit her puppies carrying the genetic evidence we'd encoded for safekeeping. The station's phones began ringing off the hook. Outside, Walter could see vehicles arriving. FBI, real police, media vans. The people responsible are watching right now, Mitchell continued, looking directly at the camera. Marcus Crowe, David Henley, General Robert Stone, your time is up. The evidence is live, broadcasting to servers across the country. You can't stop it now. Tommy stood up, still holding Lucky. These puppies were left to die because bad people wanted to hide what they did. But my grandpa says heroes don't let innocent things suffer, so we saved them. And now they're saving everyone else. The clip would go viral within hours. A 5-year-old boy holding a tiny puppy, speaking truth to power with the simple clarity only children possess. But in that moment, in the studio, something else was happening. Lucky, who'd been barely alive hours ago, stood up in Tommy's arms. His tail wagged. He barked, a tiny defiant sound that seemed to say, we survived. We won. The phone in Mitchell's pocket rang. He answered, listened, then smiled. FBI has arrested Marcus Crowe. They're moving on the others now. Grace pulled Tommy close, tears streaming down her face. Your dad would be so proud of you. I know, Tommy said, wise beyond his years. That's why he sent me the puppies. So, I could be brave like him. Walter felt his phone buzz. Frank's text was short. It's done. You're safe. But safety was relative. The puppies still needed care. Tommy still needed healing. And there were still questions to answer. What happens to them now? Tommy asked Mitchell, meaning the puppies. Mitchell looked at the boy who'd saved his partner's legacy. That depends. They're technically military property, but given the circumstances. He paused. Valor chose to hide them where you'd find them. Maybe that means something. It means they're meant to be with Tommy, Grace said firmly. After everything that's happened, everything we've risked. I agree, Mitchell interrupted. But there's a process. The puppies will need to be officially retired from service, the data extracted from their chips safely. It could take weeks. "We can wait," Tommy said. "Can't we, Lucky?" Lucky yawned, showing tiny teeth, then curled up in Tommy's arms and fell. Sleep. The story should have ended there. Bad guys arrested, puppies saved, evidence revealed. But real life is messier than that. As they left the station, surrounded by FBI protection, a woman approached. She was older, well-dressed, with eyes that had seen too much. "Captain Mitchell," she said. Mitchell tensed. "Director Harrison." She looked at the puppies, at Tommy, at the small family that had risked everything for the truth. "The Secretary of Defense wants to thank you personally," she said. "All of you." "We just want to go home," Grace said tiredly. "I understand, but there are protocols. The puppies need to be examined, the data extracted properly." "No." Tommy's voice was small but firm. "You're not taking them." Director Harrison knelt down. "I'm not here to take them, young man. I'm here to make sure they stay with you, but we need to do this properly. Can you be patient a little longer?" Tommy looked at Mitchell, who nodded. "She's one of the good ones, son." "Okay," Tommy agreed. "But Lucky stays with me. He's too weak to be alone." Harrison smiled. "I think that can be arranged." The next hours were a blur. They were taken to a secure facility where veterinarians, military ones this time, carefully extracted data from the puppies' chips. Tommy never left their side, and surprisingly, the officials allowed it. "The boy has a gift," one vet commented, watching Tommy calm Star during the procedure. "These puppies trust him completely." The data extraction revealed more than anyone expected. Not just weapon sales, but human trafficking, drug running, an entire network of corruption reaching into the highest levels of government. "Valor and I stumbled onto something huge," Mitchell explained. "That's why they were so desperate to kill us." By evening, the arrests were making international news. The president himself made a statement, promising full investigation and justice. But in a quiet room in the secure facility, Tommy wasn't watching the news. He was feeding the puppies, singing his father's lullaby. Being a 5-year-old boy who'd saved 4 lives and didn't fully understand he'd also saved countless others. "Tommy," Mitchell said, entering the room, "I have something for you." He held out a box. Inside were 4 small medals. "These were Valor's," he explained. "She earned them in Afghanistan, saving soldiers' lives. I think she'd want her puppies to have them, and you to keep them safe." Tommy accepted the box reverently. "I'll keep them until the puppies are old enough to understand." "That could be a long time." "That's okay," Tommy said. "We have time now." Grace found them there an hour later, Tommy asleep on the floor, surrounded by puppies. Lucky was on his chest, rising and falling with each breath. Brave, Hope, and Star were pressed against his sides, guarding him as he'd guarded them. "He hasn't slept like that since Michael died," she whispered to Walter. "The puppies know," Walter replied. "Somehow, they know he needs them as much as they need him." Mitchell stood watching, his expression soft. Valor was like that. She always knew who needed her most. "Will you visit?" Tommy asked, waking up. "The puppies will want to know about their mom." "Every week," Mitchell promised. "I'll tell them all her stories. And maybe," Tommy said hopefully, "you can teach them to be heroes like her." Mitchell's voice was rough with emotion. "I think they're already learning that from you." The secure facility's lights dimmed as night fell. Outside, the world was changing because of 4 puppies and a boy who wouldn't let them die. Inside, Tommy sang softly to Lucky, who was finally breathing normally, finally safe, finally home, even though they weren't home yet. "Tomorrow," Grace said, "we can go back to our house." "All of us?" Tommy asked. "All of us," she confirmed. Walter watched his family, broken but healing, small but fierce, and thought about Michael. His son would have been proud of Tommy's courage, of Grace's strength, of the way they'd all stepped up when it mattered. His phone buzzed. Frank again. "Check the news." The headline read, 5-year-old boy and 4 puppies expose largest military corruption scandal in U.S. history. But Walter didn't care about headlines. He cared about the smile on Tommy's face as Lucky licked his nose. He cared about Grace laughing for the first time in months as Hope tried to climb into her lap. He cared about the way Brave had appointed himself Tommy's guardian, following the boy everywhere. "We did it," Tommy whispered to the puppies. "We saved each other." And in that moment, in that quiet room, with danger past and future uncertain, that was enough. They'd found each other in the darkness of an abandoned carousel, and somehow, they'd all found their way back to the light. The first night back home should have been peaceful. It wasn't. Tommy woke to Lucky's frantic whimpering at 2 a.m., the tiny puppy pawing at his chest with unusual urgency. The other 3 puppies were sitting up in their makeshift beds, ears perked, all facing the bedroom window. "What is it, Lucky?" Tommy whispered, sitting up in his dinosaur pajamas. The puppy continued to whine, his whole body trembling. That's when Tommy heard it. Footsteps on the roof. His heart hammered as he slipped out of bed. Lucky clutched to his chest. He crept to Walter's room, the other puppies following silently behind him, like tiny shadows. "Grandpa," he whispered, shaking Walter's shoulder, "someone's on the roof." Walter was instantly alert, years of military training snapping him awake. He heard it too, the careful, deliberate movement of someone trying not to be heard. "Get your mom," Walter whispered, already reaching for his rifle. "Go to the bathroom, lock the door, and call 911. But before Tommy could move, the lights went out. Not just their house. The entire street plunged into darkness. Grace appeared in the doorway, her phone already in her hand. No signal. They're jamming cell towers. The puppies began growling in unison, a sound that seemed impossible from such small creatures. Brave positioned himself in front of Tommy, his tiny body coiled with protective instinct. "They found us," Walter said grimly. "Even after everything, they found us." Glass shattered downstairs. Then the smoke alarms started screaming, not from fire, but from smoke grenades flooding the house with thick, choking gray clouds. "The window," Grace said, already moving. "Tommy's room has the fire escape ladder." They rushed back to Tommy's room, Walter covering their retreat. The smoke was rising fast, burning their eyes and throats. Lucky was coughing, his weak lungs struggling. Walter yanked open the window just as the bedroom door exploded inward. A figure in tactical gear stood silhouetted against the smoke, weapon raised. "Drop the rifle," the man ordered, his voice muffled by a gas mask. Walter started to comply, but Star, quiet, gentle Star, launched herself at the intruder's leg with a ferocity that belied her 8 pounds. The man cursed, stumbling, giving Walter the second he needed. The rifle butt caught the intruder in the temple, dropping him instantly, but more footsteps were coming up the stairs. "Go, go, go!" Walter shouted, helping Grace get Tommy and the puppies through the window. The fire escape ladder swayed dangerously under their weight. Tommy went first, Lucky tucked inside his pajama top, while Grace followed with Hope and Star. Walter came last with Brave, who kept trying to turn back and fight. They'd barely reached the ground when the house erupted in flames, not from the smoke grenades, but from accelerant that had been poured around the foundation. Someone wanted it to look like an accident, a tragic house fire that claimed a family who'd been in the news too much lately. "Run!" Walter commanded, but Tommy was already ahead of him, some instinct guiding him toward the old storm drain that ran behind their property. They splashed through ankle-deep water, the puppies somehow understanding the need for silence. Behind them, shouts and sirens filled the night, but Walter knew better than to trust them. After what they'd learned about corruption in local law enforcement, any uniform could be an enemy. The drain led to Riverside Park, where they emerged muddy and gasping. Grace's hospital scrubs were ruined, Tommy's pajamas soaked through. The puppies were shivering, Lucky barely conscious in Tommy's arms. "We need help," Grace said, her voice steady despite everything. "Real help." Walter pulled out his emergency phone, a burner he'd bought after their first encounter with the fake cops. One number was programmed in it. Mitchell answered on the first ring. "Walter, what's wrong?" "They burned our house. We're at Riverside Park, northeast corner. Tommy and the puppies are with us, but don't move, I'm 8 minutes out. And Walter, trust no one in. Uniform until I get there." Those 8 minutes felt like hours. Every shadow could be an enemy, every sound a threat. Tommy sang softly to the puppies, his voice shaking but determined. It was the same lullaby, but now it sounded like a prayer. A van pulled up, headlights off. Walter raised his rifle, but then Mitchell stepped out, hands visible. "It's me. Get in, quickly." They piled into the van, Mitchell's eyes scanning their surroundings constantly. "Is anyone hurt?" "Lucky needs help," Tommy said. He breathed too much smoke. Mitchell pulled out a military first aid kit, producing a small oxygen mask that he modified to fit over Lucky's tiny muzzle. "This will help. Grace, there's a medical bag under the seat." As they drove, Mitchell explained, "Marcus Crow made bail 2 hours ago. A judge we didn't know was compromised. He's got maybe 12 hours before we can get him back in custody, and he's using them to tie up loose ends." "We're loose ends," Walter said. "The loosest. You exposed everything. The puppies are living proof of his crimes. And Tommy..." Mitchell glanced at the boy in the rearview mirror. "Tommy's become a symbol. The kid who stood up to corruption. Crow wants to silence that symbol." "Over my dead body," Grace said, surprising everyone with her vehemence. "That's his plan," Mitchell said grimly. "But I've got a better one." He drove them to what looked like an abandoned veterinary hospital on the outskirts of town, but inside, it was anything but abandoned. Dr. Elena was there, along with several people in civilian clothes who moved like soldiers. "My unit," Mitchell explained. "The ones who stayed loyal when everyone else was bought." Dr. Elena immediately took Lucky, hooking him up to proper oxygen and IVS. "Smoke inhalation, but he'll recover. This little one's tougher than he looks." "They all are," Tommy said proudly. "They're Valor's puppies." One of Mitchell's team, a woman with sharp eyes and steady hands, approached. "Captain, we've got movement." 3 vehicles approaching from the east. "How did they find us?" Grace asked. Mitchell's expression darkened. "There's only one way. Someone in my unit is compromised." The room went silent. These people had risked everything to protect them, and one was a traitor. "Nobody moves," Mitchell ordered, his hand on his weapon. "Stevens, Johnson, Martinez, Chen, weapons on the ground, now." His team looked shocked but complied. All except one. Martinez stepped backward, his hand moving to his concealed carry. "Don't," Mitchell warned. 50 million, Martinez said. "That's what Crow offered. 50 million to deliver the puppies and eliminate witnesses." "You sold us out for money?" Stevens sounded disgusted. "My daughter has cancer," Martinez replied. "Insurance won't cover experimental treatment. Crow will." For a moment, sympathy flickered across Mitchell's face. Then Tommy spoke. "My dad died saving people. He didn't get paid 50 million. He just did it because it was right." Martinez's composure cracked. "Your dad didn't have to watch his baby girl dying by inches." "Neither do you," Grace said softly. "I'm a nurse. I know the treatment you're talking about. It's available through clinical trials, free. I can help you apply." Martinez laughed bitterly. "You'd help me after this?" "After you choose," Mitchell corrected. "Right now, choose who you want to be, the man who sold out a child for money, or the soldier I trained who protects the innocent." The vehicles outside were getting closer. Through the window, headlights swept across the parking lot. Martinez looked at Tommy, who was holding Lucky protectively. The other puppies huddled around him. Something shifted in his expression. "There's a tunnel," he said suddenly. "Old drainage system from when this was a working hospital. Leads to the river. I was supposed to block it, trap you inside." "But," Mitchell prompted. Martinez dropped his weapon. "But I'm not going to. Go. I'll buy you time." "They'll kill you," Mitchell said. "Maybe. Or maybe I'll convince them you were never here." Martinez knelt in front of Tommy. "I'm sorry, kid. Your dad was a hero. I forgot what that meant." Tommy studied him with those 2 old eyes. Then he held out Star. "Take her." "What?" "Star needs someone to protect. That's what she's for. And you need something to protect besides money. Take care of her, and she'll take care of your daughter." Martinez's hands shook as he accepted the puppy. Star licked his face once, as if sealing a deal. "The tunnel." "Now," Mitchell ordered. They ran, following Chen's flashlight through a maze of corridors to a rusted grate. Mitchell and Stevens pried it open, revealing a concrete tube barely tall enough for an adult to crouch in. "I'll lead," Chen said, disappearing into the darkness. They crawled through decades of decay and dampness, the puppies whimpering but following. Behind them, they heard shouting, then gunfire. Martinez, buying them time with his life. The tunnel seemed endless. Tommy's knees were bleeding through his pajamas, but he didn't complain. Lucky was tucked in his shirt again, the puppies breathing worryingly shallow. Finally, they emerged at the river's edge, muddy and exhausted. A boat was waiting. Mitchell had planned for multiple contingencies. "Where are we going?" Walter asked as they climbed aboard. "The one place Crow can't reach," Mitchell said, starting the engine. "Federal property. There's a military base 40 miles downriver. My commanding officer is expecting us." The boat ride was surreal, fleeing for their lives while the sun rose over the water, painting everything gold and pink. Hope and Brave huddled against Tommy, who kept checking on Lucky's breathing. "Is Star going to be okay?" Tommy asked Mitchell. "Martinez will take care of her, if he survives," Mitchell replied. "You did a brave thing, giving her to him." "She wanted to go," Tommy said simply. "I could tell. She knew he needed her. More." Grace pulled Tommy close. "You have your father's heart. Is that good?" "It's the best thing in the world," she said, kissing his muddy forehead. The military base appeared around a bend in the river, Fort Harrison, with its imposing walls and guard towers. But instead of feeling trapped, Walter felt relief. This was federal ground. Local corruption couldn't touch them here. Colonel Rebecca Stone met them at the dock. She was nothing like the corrupt General Stone they'd exposed. She was sharp, honest, and furious about what had happened. "Captain Mitchell," she saluted. "The civilians are under my protection now. Crow was arrested again 20 minutes ago, trying to flee the country. This time, he's not getting bail." "And Martinez?" Mitchell asked. "Alive. Critical condition, but alive. He held them off long enough for FBI to arrive. He's cooperating fully." Tommy tugged on the colonel's uniform. "Can Star visit him? He needs her." Colonel Stone's stern expression softened. "We'll see what we can do, young man." They were taken to the base hospital, where Lucky finally received proper treatment. The other puppies were examined too, all showing signs of smoke inhalation, but expected to recover fully. While they waited, Colonel Stone debriefed them. The corruption went deeper than anyone had imagined. 17 more arrests had been made overnight. 3 judges, 5 police officials, 8 military contractors, all connected to Crow's network. "The puppy's genetic evidence is the key to everything," she explained. "Without it, these people would have walked free." "So it's over?" Grace asked hopefully. "The immediate danger, yes. But there will be trials, testimony needed. You'll be protected throughout, but it could take months, even years." Tommy was only half listening. He was watching Lucky breathe, each rise and fall of the tiny chest a small miracle. The puppy's eyes flickered open, focusing on Tommy's face. "Hey, Lucky," Tommy whispered. "You made it. We all made it." Lucky's tail managed as a weak wag. Dr. Elena arrived that afternoon, having been cleared by security. She brought news that made Tommy cry with relief. All the puppies would make full recoveries. "They're remarkably resilient," she said. "Like their mother." Mitchell had been quiet for hours, but now he spoke. "I've been thinking about what happens next. The puppies are technically military property, but given everything that's happened..." "You're not taking them," Tommy said firmly. "No," Mitchell smiled. "I'm not. But I have a proposal. What if we made them official? Not military dogs, but service dogs. Therapy dogs, specifically. They could be trained to help other kids who've lost parents, who've been through trauma." Tommy's eyes lit up. "Like, they could help other sad kids?" "Exactly. You could help train them, Tommy. Teach them how to comfort people the way they've comforted you." "All of them?" Tommy asked, then his face fell. "Except Star. She's with Martinez's daughter now." "Actually," Colonel Stone interrupted, checking her phone, "I just got word. Martinez is awake. He's asking for you, Tommy, all of you." The drive to the civilian hospital was tense. Martinez was under federal protection, guards at every entrance. But the real protection, Tommy noticed when they entered his room, was Star. The puppy was curled on his chest, alert and watchful. A little girl, maybe 7, sat beside the bed, holding Martinez's hand. She was pale, thin, clearly sick, but her eyes were bright as she watched Star. "This is Sophia," Martinez said weakly. "Sophie, this is Tommy. He gave us Star." Sophia looked at Tommy with wonder. "Star saved my daddy. The doctor said she barked and barked when his heart stopped, and that's how they knew to come help." Tommy approached the bed slowly. "Star's good at knowing when people need help." Like her mom, Martinez said. I researched valor. She saved 14 soldiers in Afghanistan, detected an ambush that would have killed an entire unit. He struggled to sit up. I almost destroyed her legacy. I'm sorry. You didn't, though, Tommy said. In the end, you didn't. Star can stay with you, Tommy continued, looking at Sophia. She picked you. But can we visit? She'll want to see her brothers and sister. Sophia nodded eagerly. We can have puppy play dates. Even Walter smiled at that. Over the next weeks, life found a strange new rhythm. They lived in temporary base housing while their home was rebuilt. Insurance covered it. But the investigation meant everything moved slowly. The puppies grew stronger daily, their personalities emerging more clearly. Brave was protective, always positioning himself between Tommy and any perceived threat. Hope was gentle, seeming to sense when someone needed comfort. Lucky, despite his rough start, was the most playful, making Tommy laugh with his clumsy antics. Mitchell visited daily, working with professional trainers to begin the puppy's therapy, dog education. But the real teacher was Tommy, who had an instinctive understanding of how to reach them. Don't force it, Tommy would tell the adult trainers. They have to want to help. Show them how good it feels to make someone happy. The first test came when Colonel Stone brought a young soldier to meet them. Private Johnson had lost his leg in an IED explosion and hadn't spoken since returning home. The trainers wanted to start with Brave or Hope, but Tommy shook his head. Lucky, he said. Send Lucky. The smallest puppy approached the silent soldier slowly, then did something unexpected. He fell over, dramatically and comedically, his legs splaying in all directions. Then he looked at Private Johnson, as if to say, well, that was embarrassing. Johnson's lips twitched. Lucky tried to get up, slipped, and tumbled again. This time, a sound escaped Johnson. Not quite a laugh, but close. See? Lucky seemed to say, finally getting his feet under him. We all fall down. The trick is getting back up. Johnson reached out slowly, his hand trembling, and touched Lucky's head. Hey, little guy, he whispered, his first words in 2 months. The room erupted in tears and celebration, but Tommy just smiled. Lucky knows about getting back up, he said simply. Word spread about the miracle puppies. Soon the base was bringing troubled soldiers to visit. Each puppy seemed to know exactly who needed them most. Brave gravitated toward those dealing with PTSD, his steady presence grounding them. Hope found the grieving ones, offering silent comfort. Lucky made everyone laugh, even when they thought they'd forgotten how. But the real story was Tommy himself. Without realizing it, he'd become a therapist too. He'd sit with soldiers and tell them about his dad, about loss, about how the puppies saved him as much as he saved them. It's okay to be sad, he'd tell grown men with tears streaming down their faces. My dad said tears are just love with nowhere to go. Grace watched her son transform from a grieving child into something extraordinary, still a child, but one who understood pain and healing in ways most adults never would. The trials began 3 months later. Tommy had to testify, which everyone worried about. How could they put a 5-year-old on the stand against such dangerous people? But Tommy insisted. The puppies were brave enough to survive. I can be brave enough to tell the truth. The courthouse was packed the day Tommy testified. He brought Lucky with him. The puppy was now officially certified as an emotional support animal, the youngest in the state's history. Crow's lawyer tried to intimidate him, but Tommy just looked at the man who'd tried to kill his family and spoke clearly. You hurt Valor. You tried to hurt her puppies. You burned our house and tried to kill us. But you failed. You failed because good people stopped you, and the puppies survived because that's what heroes do. They survive and help others survive too. That's not a question, the lawyer said dismissively. No, Tommy agreed. It's the truth. The jury took less than an hour to convict on all counts. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded them. One asked Tommy how he felt. Sad, he said, surprising everyone. Mister, Crow did bad things, but now his family is sad, like I was sad when my dad died. Nobody wins when people do bad things. That clip went even more viral than the first one. A 5-year-old showing more wisdom and compassion than most adults. The months that followed were a whirlwind. The puppies grew into young dogs, their training intensifying. They visited hospitals, schools, disaster sites. Wherever there was pain, Tommy and the dogs appeared. Brave prevented a suicide, sensing a veteran's desperation and refusing to leave his side until help arrived. Hope comforted children after a school shooting, her presence more powerful than any words. Lucky brought laughter to pediatric cancer wards, his silly antics making sick kids forget their pain. And Star, still with Martinez and Sophia, became the first therapy dog specifically trained for children with cancer. The anniversary of finding the puppies approached. Tommy was now 6, taller and more serious, but still with that same generous heart. The puppies were full-grown German shepherds, magnificent animals who bore their mother's noble features. Mitchell organized a memorial service for valor at the military cemetery. It was supposed to be small, but word got out. Hundreds came, soldiers valor had saved, families the puppies had helped, people whose lives had been changed by a boy who wouldn't let innocent creatures die. Tommy stood at the podium, Lucky, Brave, and Hope beside him. Star was there too, with Martinez and Sophia, who was in remission thanks to the treatment Grace had helped them find. I never met Valor, Tommy began, his voice clear and strong, but I know her through her puppies. She was brave like Brave, hopeful like Hope, lucky like Lucky, and bright like Star. She died protecting them, making sure the truth would survive, even if she didn't. He paused, looking at the crowd. My dad died saving someone too. For a long time I was angry about that. Why did he have to be a hero? Why couldn't he just come home? Grace wiped tears from her eyes as Tommy continued. But then I found the puppies, and I understood. Being a hero isn't about wanting to be special. It's about seeing someone who needs help and helping them, even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, even when you might not come home. He knelt beside the memorial stone they'd placed for Valor, running his fingers over her name. Thank you, Valor, he said softly, but the microphone caught it. Thank you for trusting us with your babies. We promise to take care of them and help them be heroes like you. As if on cue, all 4 dogs howled, a mournful, beautiful sound that echoed across the cemetery. It was goodbye and thank you and promise all at once. The crowd began to disperse, but Tommy noticed an elderly woman struggling with a wheelchair near the parking lot. Without being asked, he and Brave went to help. That was when the second miracle happened. The woman looked at Brave and gasped. Valor? Mitchell approached quickly. Ma'am, this is Valor's son, Brave. The woman's eyes filled with tears. I'm Sarah Chen. Valor saved my son in Afghanistan. He was the last one she saved before. She couldn't finish. Her son, a young man in the wheelchair, reached out to touch Brave. The dog immediately sensed his need, moving closer, resting his great head on the man's lap. She was pregnant when she saved me, the soldier whispered. I didn't know. She was pregnant and still threw herself between me and an IED. The explosion. It's why she disappeared. She must have been injured, confused, tried to find somewhere safe to have her puppies. The pieces fell into place. Valor's last act of heroism had been saving this soldier, and the trauma had sent her into hiding. She'd found the abandoned park, given birth in the Carousel horse, and stayed alive just long enough to ensure her puppies would survive. She died a hero twice, Mitchell said quietly. Once saving him, once saving her puppies. Tommy looked up at the soldier. What's your name? Michael, the man replied. Michael Chen. Tommy's eyes widened. That was my dad's name. Michael. It was too much coincidence, too much connection. Grace pulled Tommy close, overwhelmed by the strange symmetry of it all. Maybe, Tommy said thoughtfully, maybe all the heroes are connected somehow. Like a big family we don't even know about. Over the following months, that family grew. Michael Chen became a regular visitor, working with Brave on his own recovery. His mother, Sarah, started volunteering at the therapy dog program. Martinez, fully recovered and reinstated with honors, brought Sophia and Star to every event. The program expanded. More puppies were trained, not valors, but rescues who showed promise. Tommy, despite his young age, was recognized as the program's heart. He had a gift for matching dogs with people, for knowing who needed what. How do you do it? A reporter asked him once. Tommy thought about it. I just remember being sad and scared, and I think about what would have helped me. Then I find the dog who can do that. By his 7th birthday, the program had helped thousands. The puppies, now fully grown, had prevented suicides, comforted disaster victims, helped children testify in court, and brought hope to the hopeless. But the biggest transformation was in Tommy himself. The sad, quiet boy who'd found dying puppies in an abandoned park had become a beacon of hope for others. He still missed his father. That would never change, but he'd learned to transform grief into purpose. One evening, as Tommy prepared the dogs for bed in their new house, rebuilt and modified with a special wing for the therapy program, Grace found him talking to Lucky. "Dad would be proud of us, wouldn't he?" Tommy was saying. "We saved them all. The puppies, mister. Martinez. All those sad soldiers. We did good, right?" Lucky licked his face enthusiastically, making Tommy giggle. Grace knocked softly. "Tommy, there's someone here to see you." It was Colonel Stone, but she wasn't alone. A man in a general's uniform stood beside her, along with several other officials. "Tommy Patterson," the general said formally. "On behalf of the United States military, we'd like to present you with something." He handed Tommy a framed certificate. The words were too big for Tommy to read easily, but Grace gasped when she saw them. "It's a civilian commendation," she whispered. "The highest honor they can give to a non-military person. For exceptional bravery and service in exposing corruption, saving lives, and creating a program that has helped countless veterans and civilians," the general read. "You're the youngest person ever to receive this honor." Tommy looked at the certificate, then at the dogs, then at all the adults watching him. "I don't need a medal," he said, which made several officials shift uncomfortably. "But can you do something else?" "What's that, son?" the general asked. "Can you make sure all the animal shelters near military bases have programs like ours? There are so many dogs that need homes and so many soldiers who need friends. We could save them all." The general looked at Colonel Stone, who was trying not to smile. "I think that can be arranged," he said. Within a year, Tommy's program was national. The boy who found 4 dying puppies had started a movement that saved thousands of dogs and helped tens of thousands of people. But the story's not over. It never really is with heroes. They just keep going, keep helping, keep saving lives one person and one dog at a time. 5 years after that first morning in the abandoned park, Tommy stood in the same spot where he'd found the puppies. He was 12 now, taller and more confident, but still with that same kind heart. The park had been renovated, turned into a memorial garden. The carousel had been restored, and the horse where the puppies were found had been painted gold. A small group had gathered for the dedication. Mitchell was there, now running the national program. Grace stood proud, watching her son. Walter, older but still strong, held the leashes of Brave, Hope, and Lucky. All senior dogs now, but still working, still saving lives. Martinez brought Star and Sophia, who was cancer-free and training to be a veterinarian. "I want to save dogs like Star saved my daddy," she'd say. Michael Chen was there too, walking now with just a cane, Brave having been instrumental in his recovery. But the surprise guest was someone nobody expected. "Tommy?" A woman approached, elderly and frail. "I'm Margaret Henley, David Henley's mother." Everyone tensed. David Henley had been one of Crow's conspirators, now serving life in prison. "I know what my son did was unforgivable," she said, tears flowing. "But I wanted to thank you. Your testimony, your compassion even toward the people who hurt you, it made David finally admit what he'd done. He's getting help now, real help. And I wanted you to know that not everyone connected to this darkness stayed dark. Some of us found light because of you." She held out a check. "This is David's military pension. He signed it over to your program. It's not enough to make up for what he did, but maybe it can help save more dogs and people." Tommy looked at the check. It was for $2 million. "Everyone can choose to be good," Tommy said, accepting it. "Even after being bad. That's what the puppies taught me. Every day we get to choose." The dedication ceremony was simple but powerful. A plaque was unveiled that read, "In memory of Valor, military working dog, who gave her life protecting others. In honor of her puppies, Brave, Hope, Lucky, and Star, who survived to continue her legacy. And in celebration of Tommy Patterson, who at 5 years old showed us that heroes come in all sizes, and compassion can change the world." Tommy traced his fingers over the words, then looked at the crowd that had gathered. Hundreds of people whose lives had been touched by the dogs. Valor never got to see her puppies grow up, he said into the microphone, but I think she knew they'd be okay. She hid them where someone would find them, someone who needed them as much as they needed help. That was her last gift, not just the puppies, but bringing us all together. He looked at Lucky, now gray around the muzzle, but still bright-eyed. My dad used to say that love is the only thing that multiplies when you divide it. Valor's love got divided into 4 puppies, and then into all of us, and now into thousands of dogs and people across the country. That's the real miracle, not that we found them, but that they helped us find each other. As the ceremony ended and people began to disperse, a young boy approached Tommy, holding his mother's hand. He couldn't have been more than 5, the same age Tommy had been. "Mr. Tommy?" the boy said shyly. "My daddy died too, in a car accident. Mom says you understand about being sad." Tommy knelt down to the boy's level, and Lucky immediately moved closer, sensing need. "What's your name?" Tommy asked gently. "Kevin." "Well, Kevin, being sad is okay. It means you loved your daddy a lot. The sad doesn't go away, but it gets softer. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, you find something that helps make it better. Like I found Lucky." Lucky wagged his tail and gently licked Kevin's hand. "Can I pet him?" Kevin asked. "Better than that," Tommy said. "Lucky's been waiting for a special friend. He's getting older and can't do as much therapy work. He needs someone to love him and take care of him. Think you could do that?" Kevin's eyes widened. "Really?" Tommy looked at Kevin's mother, who was crying and nodding. "Really. But you have to promise to bring him to visit sometimes. His brother and sisters will miss him." As Kevin hugged Lucky, the old dog's tail wagging with puppy-like enthusiasm, Tommy realized this was how it was supposed to work. Love given, love received, love multiplied. The sun was setting over the park, painting everything gold, the same light that had revealed the puppies that morning 5 years ago. But now, instead of abandonment and death, the park held memory and hope. Walter put his hand on Tommy's shoulder. "Your dad would be so proud." "I know," Tommy said, watching Kevin and Lucky bond instantly. "But I think he'd be proud of all of us." We all saved each other. As they walked back to their cars, Brave and Hope flanking them, Star with Martinez and Sophia, and Lucky beginning his new adventure with Kevin, Tommy heard something that made him stop. From somewhere in the park, maybe the wind, maybe imagination, maybe something more, came the sound of a dog's bark, strong, clear, protective. "Did you hear that?" he asked Mitchell. Mitchell smiled. "Valor's always with us, Tommy. In every dog we save, every person we help. Heroes never really die. They just become stories that inspire others to be heroes too." 10 years have passed since that morning in the abandoned park. Tommy is 22 now, a veterinary student who still runs the therapy dog program that bears his name. It operates in all 50 states, has saved over 100,000 dogs from euthanasia, and helped millions of people. Brave, Hope, and Lucky have all passed on, aged and loved to the end. But their descendants, carefully bred and trained, continue their work. Star, the last surviving of the original 4, lives with Sophia, who's now 17 and heading to veterinary school herself, inspired by the dog who saved her father and helped her through cancer. The Carousel horse, where it all began, is now a pilgrimage site for people whose lives were touched by the dogs. They leave flowers, photos, thank you notes. Some leave collars of dogs who passed on, hoping their spirits will find Valor's and run together in whatever comes after. Tommy still visits on the anniversary each year. This year, he brought someone special, a young woman named Rebecca, a fellow vet student who understands his passion for helping animals and people heal together. "This is where it started," he told her, touching the golden horse. 4 dying puppies and a broken-hearted kid. "And look what grew from that," Rebecca said, gesturing to the therapy center that now occupied the renovated park. Through the windows, they could see dogs and humans working together, healing together, saving each other just as Tommy and the puppies had saved each other. "My dad died saving one person," Tommy said. "But because of that pain, because of what I learned from losing him, thousands of people have been saved. Tens of thousands of dogs have found homes. It doesn't make losing him okay, but it makes it mean something." A text interrupted his reflection. Mitchell, now a general, had sent a photo from Afghanistan. Soldiers with therapy dogs, all trained through Tommy's program, working with local children traumatized by war. Valor's great-great-grandpuppies, the message read, still saving lives on the other side of the world. Tommy smiled, remembering the scared 5-year-old who'd crawled into a carousel horse to save 4 dying puppies. He couldn't have imagined then what would grow from that moment of compassion. But that's how heroism works. It starts small, with one person refusing to walk away from suffering. Then it spreads, inspiring others, until what began as one boy saving 4 puppies becomes a movement that changes the world. As Tommy and Rebecca walked back to their car, a familiar sound made them stop. From the therapy center came the sound of a child laughing, really laughing, for the first time since losing a parent. Through the window, they could see a puppy, one of Hope's descendants, performing the same silly tumble that Lucky had perfected years ago. "The cycle continues," Rebecca said softly. "Always," Tommy agreed. "As long as there are people who hurt and dogs who need homes, we'll be here." That's Valor's true legacy, not just her puppies, but the reminder that love is stronger than loss, compassion is stronger than cruelty, and sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can change everything. The story could end here, but it doesn't. Right now, somewhere, a child is crying over loss. Somewhere else, a dog sits in a shelter, waiting. And somewhere, someone like Tommy, maybe someone watching this, is about to make the choice that brings them together. Because that's what heroes do. They see suffering and choose to act. They find puppies and carousel horses, or they adopt senior dogs nobody else wants, or they simply refuse to let cruelty win. The 4 puppies found in that abandoned carousel horse didn't just survive. They started a revolution of compassion. And Tommy, the 5-year-old boy who saved them, proved that heroes don't need superpowers. They just need heart. The memorial garden is quiet now as evening falls, but tomorrow it will fill again with people and dogs, with healing and hope, with the endless ripple effects of one morning when a grandfather and grandson went to take pictures and ended up saving the world, one puppy at a time. In the distance, a dog barks, strong, clear, protective. Valor's spirit still standing watch, still reminding us that love never really dies. It just transforms, multiplies, and saves us all. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in the power of compassion to change the world, please like and share it. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and if you've ever been saved by a dog's love. Subscribe to hear more stories of everyday heroes, both human and 4-legged, who remind us that kindness is the greatest superpower of all. Together, we can spread the message that every life matters, every act of compassion counts, and sometimes the smallest among us, a child, a puppy, can teach us the biggest lessons about love, loss, and the courage to keep helping others no matter how much we hurt.